You're listening to the TWOBUCKS podcast, the podcast for outdoor entrepreneurs.
Little by little, I was getting the sense of my time isn't my time.
Just kept feeling this pull to the outdoors and wanting to do something in the outdoor space.
Welcome to the TWOBUCKS podcast, the podcast for outdoor entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and with me today is Kevin Hollenback from Sasquatch Lures. If you have seen Kevin's TikToks, the quality of his lures is unreal. So I'm super excited to have Kevin here today. We're building up our fishing guests as we get into hard water season here in the Midwest. And so with that, Kevin, how are you, man?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Just enjoying another Ohio day.
Yeah, we are right on the front edge of a blizzard here in Minnesota. We're supposed to get like 10 inches of snow over the next 24 hours and then gusts up to like 45 the next day.
Yeah, we're going to be sitting in the teens pretty much the next 4 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I've been seeing your TikTok content, like as we spoke before the recording, you're cranking out content. And it's all of these lures that are off the charts with quality, detail, depth. How did you just start with, I'm going to make some of the best lures you've ever seen? When did that idea show up for you?
Well, okay, so me and my buddy Tosh, we got together. He runs an Indian Lake fishing group on Facebook. And we got together, 2 years ago now? And we were fishing for flatheads. And he was always trying to find this niche for spooks. And he found someone else that was making these spooks for catfishing using as a float. And the quality on them, they were just pretty much you're running a mill, hey, spray paint the top, spray paint the bottom, and then clear coat it.
Okay.
And I just saw those. I'm like, man, I feel like I can do so much more with something like that. And I used to be... in high school, I took the automotive body class, so I used to paint, cars in there and stuff. And just that aspect of being able to take a blank plastic lure and then be able to paint it and make it something not only beautiful, but able to catch fish is, it's just something that stuck.
Well, it's certainly stuck. I mean, the stuff I've seen on TikTok is phenomenal. So all that's with an airbrush then?
Yes,
okay.
All of it is with an airbrush. And some of it I do some hand painting with as well.
Yeah, some of the things I've seen, the detail would be, to me, it seems like it would be hard to do with an airbrush. I think I've seen you do scales and all kinds of different small features and detail on these lures, and it's just incredible. I was going to say, if you're doing that with an airbrush, you've got some wicked talent and custom airbrushes, but...
Yeah, it's just... all a matter about layering the lures and trying to get those layers right and get it all to sit and fit together.
How long did the first one you do turn out the same as we're seeing today, or was it a learning curve?
Nah, if you go back and watch my TikToks, the very first ones, that's when I really first started. I've only been painting for, a year and 3 months now.
Okay.
With an airbrush. And yeah, the first ones came out, they were not the greatest. I wish I had them in front of me, but I don't. My bluegill pattern was not spot on, and one side was a lot darker than the other, and I'm like, this is going to be definitely a learning curve. But I just sat down a lot and just watched YouTube and watched Baker Builds and Jekyll Baits and just took a lot of their inspirations and kind of turned them into my own.
Yeah, I've been there. And your TikTok is a good example of something that I would watch and be like, that is so cool, I want to do it. And then I try, and my perch looks like a Shiner minnow, just one color solid, just looks like trash. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not good at this.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, it does. So you said it all started out with flatheads, catfish, right?
Yes.
And so Are you... I've been seeing all kinds of different baits. Is it still centered on catfish?
Generally, yes, but I am technically a multi-species fisherman, so, flatheads is kind of more of my main target, but I do fish for a little bit of everything. I grew up my dad is a big bass fishing angler. He does a lot of local tournaments around Delaware and Ohio, and I just grew up bass fishing, so it's always going to have a place in my heart. But I always like chasing other species of fish.
Okay. I have not caught any catfish, and I think the only thing close to a catfish I've ever caught was maybe a bullhead by accident. And so I know almost nothing about it.
You should have just took that bullhead and threw it right back on the hook.
Oh, really? Is that the best thing for? I don't even know if a lot of our lakes out here in Minnesota, I don't even know if they have catfish.
Well, you might have blues up there. I'm not sure about flatheads.
I know our river systems have some catfish of different sorts, like the Red River, and they're out there, but I've never tried. I've never even tried. So that when I'm looking at your lures, I'm thinking like walleyes and pike. And so I was curious if you've ever had your lures out there for those species, because it seems like, especially for some of the sizes I've seen, would be a great fit for walleyes potentially.
I do buy some bandit blanks, which are a deep diving walleye lure. A lot of guys using the Great Lakes around here.
Okay.
And I just had a person order 13 of those. So those are all getting ready to go out the door.
How deep are we talking when you talk about like a deep diving?
Those dive 20 to 27 foot, depending on how fast they're trolling.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah, that's deep. That's like, for us, that would be like summer structure, because we're fishing, we do a big fishing trip every year up to Canada. And that lake is deep, but we're typically in the spring. So we're usually throwing jigs anywhere from like 2 feet to 12 feet. And so, but I've been switching over to baits, crankbaits, Rapalas, when I can, if the fish are that aggressive, because I can fish a lot faster. I can handle the fish faster. I can, process and get them in the lake again and keep fishing much faster. I don't have to worry about losing my minnow. And so do you have anything that would be more in that depth?
Yes, I do a lot of jerk baits as well, just your normal run-of-the-mill. They're based off the Mega Bass 110 series, and then there's also some that are based off the Duo Realist 120s. Those will be more of your 3 to 4 foot, depending on how you, what's the word? You kind of got to tune those ones.
Sure.
Because a lot of the saugeye fishermen and walleye fishermen, they like their baits to be suspended. So they want them to sit still in the water system, and they don't want them to move. Either that or they want a really slow rise or a really slow fall, depending on how the fish are wanting to act that day. Because I actually donated some lures to our Indian Lake Saugeye Slam here, and a lot of those guys, they have all kinds of different techniques to catch these saugeye in this lake.
Okay. Oh, so yeah, I've never even thought about tuning a bait. I mean, typically we're buying stuff off the shelf from these big companies and just throwing it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with that. I mean, there's a lot of controversy on whether a tune bait actually does the job or if it's just on how you work that bait that does the job. So it's really all on personal preference. I think it all depends on how you work that bait. Because some of those fish are going to react differently to different things, and just, it's always good to have a little mixture of those lures in there that float or suspend or they slow sink.
Oh yeah, of course. And so the catfish are hitting all of these like jerk baits and all these different hard baits. I've always thought of catfish, I don't know anything about it, but I always thought of it as something like a big hook with some type of bait that goes out on the bottom and they suck it up.
What we run is called a Santee Cooper rig.
Okay.
And normally it's ran with a peg float, an inline peg float where you just run the line through the peg float.
Okay.
And you can sometimes get these things are called a battle rattle, I think that's what they call them. They're just a plastic with 2 balls on the side of them and then a little slot for the line to go through. And we just looked at that, and there's too much stuff on your line. So we kind of went over to these spooks, and a lot of people are going to these spooks. Like there's the Demon Dragons, there's Henline Cat Calls, there's My Cat Calls, there's a bunch of different spooks that are just specifically designed or used for catfishing. And all it is pretty much a topwater spook. We just take the hooks off and we run the line through the eyelets of the spook.
Okay.
And what that does is you'll run it like a Carolina rig, if you know what a Carolina rig is.
Yeah,
And
roughly.
you'll just throw that spook on there, and it'll get your bait off the bottom of the
Okay.
lake.
Okay.
Because a lot of people think that all catfish eat off the bottom. Well, flatheads are technically a more predatorial catfish. So they like live bait, and they want something more in front of their face than they do trying to eat it off the bottom.
Gotcha. That makes a lot more sense now after seeing your baits, for sure. The one thing that I would feel bad about if I was fishing with one of your baits is I wouldn't want it to get scratched up. I'd feel bad because of the quality of the paint job, and all of a sudden it starts like getting beat up with all these pike hitting it.
Luckily, the clear coat I use KBS Diamond, and I use Illumilite. Illumilite UV is set with UV light, and the KBS Diamond, those take about 2 to 3 days to cure, depending on the weather. Luckily, those clear coats, they can take a pretty good beating, especially the Illumilite. The Illumilite, that thing you can throw across the parking lot, and it's not going to scratch up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I might have to look into that because it's always, I mean, we're fishing in Canada, so the fish bite a lot better than they do down here in the States. There's less pressure, more water. It's just a lot easier. And so I'm not super concerned with like finding the best thing because a lot of things work, but I don't want to like I wouldn't want to beat up a bait needlessly, right? Like I like the paint job. I want to keep them looking good. So it's nice to hear that you've got that clear coat on there that'll protect them.
Yeah, a lot of the guys in the TikTok universe or fish talk, as we want to call it, that are bait makers, that's the primary thing they use is that Illumilite and the KBS Diamond. Okay. I preferably use the KBS Diamond on all my catcall stuff because they don't get beat up as much per se as your other lures because you're not really using it as a lure. You're using it as an attractant and a float.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. When was what did it feel like the first time you threw one of your own baits and, got that bite, set the hook, and just like knew it was something that you did from scratch?
Well, I would say every fish I catch on one of my lures is like catching my first fish with my lure. It just gives you that gratification.
Did it take a while from like making your first one and learning a little bit, or was it like pretty fast after?
I mean, my first fish, it came pretty quick with the cat calls. I mean, really, with those, we found out that it's more about the contrast in the lure than it technically is the lure color itself. With flatheads, because flatheads, they don't see color. They see more black and white. And the more contrast you have in that lure, the better it's going to attract those fish. And then you obviously have your live bluegill on the other end of the hook. So
yeah,
that was pretty nice to know, hey, my product actually works. It actually can take a beating. It can actually catch a fish.
I've done my own lures a couple different times, making my own walleye rigs, like an 8-foot rig with some spinners and a couple floats. And then it's like, it wasn't really working, but I wasn't really used to fishing that style anyway. So I really don't know why I was trying to build my own. I should have just started with something that I know works because I didn't know if it was like the fishing style or the bait. And so I gave that up, but then I started making some of my own inline bucktails, like some hair, single treble, some weights on a body with some blades. And that was the first real time that I threw my own bait and got some bites. And then, you're fishing pike. So you get like a 10-pound northern. You get to get a hook set into it. You feel a little bit of power. And I remember feeling, it's like, man, it worked. Like that release, like that delayed gratification really hit hard. And that's why I was kind of curious about asking you on your first, catfish baits, if you felt that same way. It's funny you said every fish is like that, though.
It is, especially when you get into them 30-pounders. You're just like, oh, my goodness, I just caught this fish on one of my lures.
For all the guys that like big pike or muskies, I've heard that catfish fight really hard as well. Is that right?
Flatheads do, yes. I haven't gotten a blue yet. It's one of my target species I want to get, but from what other people have told me, fighting a blue is just like fighting a log.
Oh, so you just pull hard and they come with?
Yeah, just pull. I mean, they don't have the muscle like flatheads do. Flatheads are just pure muscle, and you can feel that raw power, especially once they get close to the shore and they don't want to come in. They'll drag you in if they wanted to.
Yeah, and a 30-pound fish is big. Like, that's a big fish. I've never caught a 30-pound fish. I don't think. Maybe a lake trout.
And what got me into it is I was actually fishing for wipers below one of the spillways around here, and I wasn't even trying to target flatheads, and I was just throwing a 6-inch soft plastic swim bait for these wipers, and just out of nowhere I just get this big hit, and I'm like, holy cow, and I'm just trying to fight it, reel it in, fight it, and I bring it in, and it's just an 8-pound flathead. I'm like, that fish gave me that hard of a fight? Like, holy cow. And
yeah, for us, that's smallmouth.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like I was using that light of tackle. I wasn't using an inshore rod that was, pretty heavy tackle for that, and it was one heck of a fight. And yeah, I know what you mean about smallmouth, because my biggest smallmouth I actually caught when I was 15. I was fishing with my dad on Allen Creek here in Ohio, which is now a big musky lake. But I hooked up with a 6-pounder.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that I was fighting a muskie because they just introduced muskie not too long ago, or about 5 years before this. And I thought I was fighting a muskie because of how much power I had behind it. And we get it up. I'm like, no, that's just a big smallmouth. I'm like, holy cow. And I don't think I'll ever beat that.
Well, 6-pound smallie is pretty big. I mean, that's 20, 21, 22 inches. I mean, we'd never hardly break 20 up in Canada. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah, it was a beautiful fish. But
that's crazy. Do you get into fish taxidermy at all?
No.
Okay. I've got a couple on the wall. I'm pretty selective, though. I'm a lot more selective on fish than deer, for sure. So, cool. So, you're getting me more interested in fishing catfish. Do you ever keep the catfish? Do people eat flatheads? I literally know nothing about this.
I don't keep flatheads, and where I fish, it's very frowned upon to keep them. But flatheads are probably one of the best tasting flatheads or catfish you can get.
Okay.
Because of how pure and muscle they are, and they also have a really good belly meat as well. So they're considered a delicacy when it comes to catfish.
And they don't eat them where you are fishing because of like populations and trying to manage the species?
No, just people just like fishing for them so much, so they want those fish to be able to get as big as possible. And right now, the biggest one that's been caught out of Indian Lake is on record. It was during one of our tournaments, or one of Tosh's tournaments that I helped him run. It was 42 pounds.
Oh my God!
And that's on record. That's not even with. Some people have probably caught bigger ones than that, don't even realize how big they are, or they don't have any way of knowing or verifying that it's that big.
Are fathead, is it flat or fat?
Flat.
Flat. Okay. Are flatheads the catfish that you see people noodling for?
Yes. They're one of the catfish you see people noodling for. Them and blues.
Have you ever done that?
It's illegal to do in Ohio.
Oh.
Yep.
Why is it illegal?
That's just how it is in the ODNR. They don't want you noodling for catfish.
Is it like a safety thing, or?
I think it's a safety thing because there have been some people that have drowned from noodling.
Yeah, I have friends in Oklahoma that do it, and they say they never do it alone. They always have like someone that's trying to catch the fish and someone that's trying to keep them alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pull them back out if you have to.
I've seen people do it, but they're technically not allowed to because they'll do it under boat ramps and stuff for channel catfish, which I wouldn't even want to mess with a channel catfish. Them things bite hard compared to flats. Flats can be kind of gentle if they want to be, but they'll still mess you up.
Would you, if you were in a place that you could do it, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go noodle one of these things?" Would you stick your hand in a hole?
Probably not, because you got.
Yeah, see, that's.
You got to think when those fish are in a hole, they're with their fry, so they're going to bite you hard to protect their fry.
Yeah, that's not really even the part that I'm worried about. Like it's like, yeah, I know that's going to hurt, but I'm worried like I stick my hand in a hole and it's not a catfish in there.
Yeah, it could be a turtle.
Yeah, like I don't want to mess with a snapping turtle, some stupid underwater snake. I don't know. I mean, And with my luck, I'd pick some buddy that's like, oh yeah, stick your hand in this hole. It's a nice sized cat, and it is a turtle.
Yeah.
Like he's just screwing with me.
There goes two of your fingers.
Yeah, no, I don't want any part of that.
No.
How do they know? I mean, that's got to happen, right?
I don't know how they verify if it's catfish or not. That's just,
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about
Seems like there's better things you could spend your time doing, but that's just me.
it. I mean, you could be ice fishing. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if it's ice fishing season, I'm definitely not going to be noodling a catfish. No. That's funny. That is funny. So have you been selling any of your lures yet, or are you still just making them for yourself and your friends?
I do sell some. I had them up on my Etsy store. I took it down because there's just way too many fees and stuff like that to deal with Etsy. So, but like I said, I will have a website up hopefully by the end of the year for all the cat calls. And the way I think I'm going to do like all my crankbaits and jerk baits and stuff like that, I'm going to do those pretty much paint as they come in, like paint to order.
Okay.
Where the cat calls and stuff, I think I'm going to just try to keep stock of those, because the one thing we are looking to do, because not only do we have Sasquatch custom lures, we're going to be doing the Sasquatch lures side of it, and we're going to be bringing in stuff in bulk and then trying to sell those at a little bit cheaper cost, because not everyone wants to buy a custom lure and spend, $7 to $9 on a lure just to possibly lose it.
That's all they are for a custom lure?
For the cat calls.
Oh,
for
okay.
My bass lures, those start out at $14.99 and up, depending on what they are.
Man, if you want to feel good about your prices, go buy some musky lures.
I used to musky fish on the basis. There's on a regular basis. But see, I did the lure part, but then I got smart because the place that I fish is really high pressured. And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting away from the lures, and I'm just going to go straight circle hook and catch me some bluegill that are in that system. And I want to drop them right in front of their face.
Okay, so in our water system, MNDNR or Minnesota DNR, we can't use game fish as bait fish, and so that's a new concept to me as well.
In Ohio, if you catch it on a rod and reel, you can use it for whatever you want afterwards.
That's so if you are using bluegill sunfish, right, for bait.
Yep.
If you catch that bluegill to use as bait, does that count towards some sort of a daily limit on the bluegill as well?
Bluegill here in Ohio do not have a limit.
Oh, well then that's probably getting close to not a game fish as we would describe it in Minnesota.
Now, like crappie have limits in the lakes, certain lake systems, but in the river systems, they don't.
Do they have big bluegills and crappies down there? It seems like it might be hard to have big ones if they're...
We can get some pretty good size ones, some 9, 10 inchers.
On the bluegills?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is a really good size bluegill. With no daily limit, man, that sounds like a good place to go if you're trying to do a fish fry.
Yeah. But yeah, we primarily, like with the flatheads, that's what we primarily use as live bait. So we primarily use bluegill, and if we get a crappie that's within the size limit, we'll use the crappie as live bait.
Interesting. I've never even heard of that. But yeah, I mean, if it's legal, why not? If that's the best way to catch them, I'm all for doing things the most efficient way that's
now
allowable.
The way Ohio's law is right now is if it has a slot limit or if it has a size limit, you cannot use it as cut bait. You have to use it whole because they want to be able to count and also see if it's within that size limit.
Yeah, so there's a couple things to. So if somebody comes to check, you just got to reel in real slow and hope a cat bites you off before you get in, right?
Or just follow the law.
Just follow the law.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, it's funny because where I was originally going to ask you about is it hard to keep up with order volume on the custom lures?
Right now, order volume is a little low. I think it's just because I don't have the website up. People don't want to message me to be like, hey, can I get these, and these? It's a lot easier for them to go to somewhere and just click on it and be like, oh, I just want that. Oh, I just want that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, if you don't have a website, it's hard. But, how long... So if you were going to do a custom lure, like just a normal hard body, how long does that take to paint and like be done per se? Like it might be curing or drying, but just the active work.
Generally, like if I just do like a normal cure with the Alumilite, I can have a lure probably done in 3 hours. That's
Okay,
done.
so that's still a
ready to
lot of
fish
time.
and go. Well, that's done ready to fish and go, and that's one lure. If I get like multiple orders of the same, at least paint scheme, I can knock out maybe 10 lures in that same amount of time. But it all depends.
Okay,
on
so
how
you
many,
just doing, you line them all up, and while you got like the green paint in, you paint all the green parts, and then you switch colors and do all those.
Yeah, like with the cat calls, generally I'll paint those in groups of 5. So I'll paint 5 of them at a time. So that takes 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the complexity. But since those get KBS diamond, depending on the weather and the humidity in the air, it takes 2 to 5 days for the KBS diamond to cure.
Okay, is that harder than the Alumilite?
It's cheaper, so I can keep my costs down than Alumilite.
Okay.
The KBS diamond costs about $60 a quart, where the Alumilite costs $100 a quart.
Okay, so that's significantly better price point and for equivalent performance, I'd assume.
Yeah, it's pretty much, they're pretty similar.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that something that you see taking Sasquatch Lures and Sasquatch Custom to a full-time gig down the road? Is that something you'd love to like pursue?
If we can get the lure part of it going more, because my plan with that is to start off with the smaller cat calls, move into the bigger ones, and then kind of branch out there. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't want to spend, the $6, even though, or the $7 on one of the Pro Series cat calls. They rather save the $2 and buy a $4 lure. Just trying to hit that market of where you can have more quantity and still be able to make a little money off of it to buy other stuff to bring in. Because really, anything I do right now is just to bring in more stuff. It's not going in my pocket or nothing. It's just trying to get more stuff here.
Yeah, just turning around and reinvesting everything back into the business. That makes a lot of sense. Have you thought about on the Sasquatch lure side, right? The higher volume, lower cost point, doing any type of like mystery tackle box or subscription box?
It could be in the future. It just depends on what stuff we can get in, because we're looking to pretty much do it. And the reason why we actually I thought about doing the Sasquatch custom lures is not only to give people a cheaper product, it's also to be able to give some of these smaller mom and pop shops around here a cheaper product to buy and still make a little bit of money off of. Because the bottom end that they get on some of these lures is maybe only 20% they make off of it, where they could be making 50% off of what I give them and still have that same quality.
Yeah, that is tough to make a margin there. You have to give them something to live off of too, for sure. Do you lose a lot of lures catfishing? Is that like a common thing?
I don't.
I don't.
Well, the way we run our catfish rigs is we run a 100-pound braided line for our main line, and then we run a 50 to 80-pound monofilament leader line. So it's pretty hard for us to lose stuff, and it's pretty hard for us to have fish break off.
And I assume you can use the same lure over and over again until it eventually does break, right?
Well, I haven't had one break yet, so.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at with the whole, like, some people don't want to pay $8 for a lure. It's like we fish leaders on all of our hard baits. Anything that a pike could hit, we're fishing a 12-inch titanium leader. I mean, that thing, I don't even know what the pound test is, probably 100, 200. I mean, it's a titanium braided leader. And then we're running, most of the time with our bait casters, 50-pound braided. And so it's like I have lures that I started fishing back when I was 5 that are still in my tackle box. So to pay even $20 for a custom lure, I wouldn't even shake my head at it if it's going to last. I mean, even if it lasted a full week in Canada and was a great fish, and at the end of that week of fishing, it's toast, I'd be like, $20 well spent.
Yeah, and some people are easy to convince. They're convinced easily that way that, hey, this custom lure is going to last me a long time. But some people are just like, well, I don't want to spend the $6. I don't want to spend that much. It's even though they don't realize that lure is going to last them a long time if they run it the right way. And that's one thing that me and Tosh are trying to slowly convince people is the proper way to fish them, to where not only you don't lose your stuff, but you also bring the fish in and you bring them in healthy.
True. Yeah. Yeah. That could be a big part of it too. And probably just take some branding and just some thought about what kind of content you're putting out there. But, showing people catching big cats with these lures in the right way, people are gonna be like, oh, now I get it. All right, I'm going to buy one.
Yeah, the one thing I plan on doing with at least the cheaper ones is I plan on selling them pre-rigged. So they'll be pre-tied. So all I would have to do is put a weight on their main line and tie it to their main line. They'll be ready to go. But I've also thought about doing the tackle boxes eventually for, just strictly catfishing rigs where it comes with all the other terminal tackle and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be I think that would go over well, too, and then you can do all kinds of different things with that. I mean, the reason I asked about, like, the mystery tackle box is because you see a lot of it out there nowadays. You see people, like, they like to sign up. It's whatever, $10 a month, and they're like, oh, what am I going to get? It's a surprise, And then it's on the flip side, I can imagine for the business side of it, it's really nice knowing where you stand, what your numbers are. You can forecast. We have 100 subscribers at $10 a month. So I know how much I can spend on lures, and now I can buy in bulk and get better pricing. And it unlocks a lot of power and freedom behind the scenes for you as well.
Yeah, the only problem with buying in bulk, though, is how long it takes to get over here.
Yeah, especially, because it's coming across the sea, right? So you got to plan that stuff out. You'd probably have to pre-plan, like, the first year of boxes, like, and hope that you don't run out or don't grow too fast. And there'll be some challenges along the way for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always challenges somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you could work with some domestic side of, like, some bigger domestic people on that to start to build up, or I don't know. I don't know who would be around that could build your stuff at a decent price.
That's the problem finding is because, I mean, there are some places that do the plastic injection molds, but being able to find the places that can do that and also do the plastic welding that needs to be done to get them two sizes fused together, because when they're made, they're two sides of the lure, and then they have to put all the terminal stuff in there, put the BBs and the knocker and stuff on it, and then they have to fuse those together and do a fuse weld on them.
Yeah, like a sonic weld. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that would be really cool, I mean, you could have a couple different levels, but you could even do like a mystery custom, like. Yeah. We're doing a custom box. You're not going to get as many people, but you charge a little bit more. But then you also know exactly how many to make at that time.
Yeah, I've thought about, because there's other things I plan on kind of getting into a little bit. I have just started buying stuff for pouring lead and doing jigs, but I haven't really gotten into that because I still need a couple more things until I can have that ability to do it. So that's another thing I plan on doing, is doing some like hand-tied jigs and stuff like that, because I also used to do a lot of steelhead fishing, so I like throwing marabou jigs. So that's another thing I thought about doing, is marabou jigs, and then also the crappie jigs.
I would be very interested in that. I've started buying a bunch of marabou for walleyes, different weights and colors. I'm the kind of guy that likes a pretty tackle box, and I'll admit it sounds a little girly, but I like having like every size and every color organized in my tray. I got my 1/8 ounce, my 1/4 ounce, my 3/8 ounce. I got, organized by color all the way. So I can basically just pick and choose exactly what I want, but that's very expensive to build that.
Yeah, that's how my steelhead stuff is. It's all organized, and it's in own little box, and it's all in one box is one certain thing. It's all the, all the soft beads are in one box, all the hard beads are in another box, and all your terminal tackles in another box. You have your hooks in each individual slot, so you know what size they are. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how mine is. I mean, I got like 6 little boxes. That's all my hardware, my different size hooks, beads, snaps, swivels. I got 3 or 4 big boxes. That's all my jigs, all my Rapalas, all my hair, it's just, I've got a small Bass Pro Shop in my tackle box is the way that I put it. I could dang near build a new rod and reel and lure and line it and everything. So have you started on this process? Have you started getting to that point where you're like, there's so many ideas and there's so many things I should do and there's so many things I want to do and the time is just short, and you're like, should I do this first, or should I build the website next, or should I go do this thing over here? Started getting that feeling yet?
Yeah, because not only do I do this, but I also have a full-time, part-time job technically, and then I have 2 kids on top of that. So it really all adds up, and then all the stuff I do with Indian Lake and with Tosh and helping him run them catfish tournaments. And then we also have the Junior Angler of Ohio program that we're running as well on top of that.
Oh, sounds like you're a busy guy. Yeah, that definitely comes in when you're starting a business. You're like, oh man, I should make some ads, and I should figure out some ads and marketing, and I should also do this, and I also need to update the website, and I should also, go maybe do this podcast, and I should make some videos for TikTok. And all of a sudden you start like stockpiling all these ideas, and you're coming up with more ideas than you have time for.
Yeah, and I never really wanted the custom part of it to like take over a lot. I don't mind sitting down and painting a couple hours a day, and that's where the whole kind of the Sasquatch lure side comes over to it, is that I can just have those things stockpiled, and I can just, I just have inventory on hand and don't have to worry about it. Where, the custom lure part of it, you have to have that time, and you have to be able to sit down and just go through all these baits, make sure they're all, the right paint job. There's no nicks in the paint. The clear coat comes out how it's supposed to be. And yeah, it's just that part of it adds on a lot of it. And if I had the ability to where I didn't have a full-time job, where the Sasquatch lure side of it took over, then I could probably be able to sit down and worry about the other stuff a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you offer any types, I know this sounds funny, but any types of customization on the Sasquatch custom side?
Yeah, anything.
Like maybe personalization, like you put people's name. Like I'm thinking like a custom lure would be a great gift idea. Like you said, some people don't like spending this much money on a lure, but all of us get to this time of the year and they're like, man, what should I get my dad for Christmas? He's got everything he could possibly need. I feel like that'd be a great gift idea. And then if you could personalize it, that'd be that next level.
I've had one person ask me to do a Pittsburgh Steeler lure. So I was able to do that. I took just the 3 little stars that they have. I can't remember the colors, like red, yellow, and white or something. I was able to put that onto some water transfer film and then transfer that over onto the lure. So I was able to do a nice black and yellow lure and then put that transfer paper on top of it. So they had the Pittsburgh Steelers looking lure.
That would be the next thing, is which NFL team colors catch the most fish.
I don't watch the NFL enough to worry about that.
No, but yeah, that'd be kind of funny. It's like, did it work? Like, obviously, maybe he doesn't even want to fish with it. He just wants it for a decorative
I do
piece,
have one cat call that's called the Brutus for the Buckeyes here in Ohio State. So,
yeah, that'd be funny. I was thinking more so like, I got 2 nephews that just love fishing. I mean, they're just fishing fools. And maybe like to get them like a birthday present, and it's just like one of your normal colors. But if like, do you ever do like hand brush like someone's name? Like if I said, hey, can you put his first and last name on the belly of it or something?
I don't know if you want me to hand brush, because me writing is not the greatest. That's why on my lures I do the water transfer. But I could type it out on a computer, make it look nice on there, be able to do the water transfer and put it onto the lure. And that's
oh yeah, that'd be really cool.
So I can.
If they listen to this podcast, it's going to wreck my surprise.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of customizations that stuff allows with it.
What the hell? I think I lost you. Can you still hear me?
You. Can you hear me?
I got it back. I got a little USB-C wire that's getting a little loose on me. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a cool gift. I might have to look into that and see what would be the best fit for like some pitch and walleye jerkbaits and stuff like that. That'd be a pretty cool birthday present.
Probably
idea for
them do a realist 110 or 120s. They got a nice big sight on them. do a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite color patterns to paint? Like just you personally, not if they catch fish or not. Just
Me
which ones look cool.
personally, I like doing the crawl patterns and the bluegill patterns. Those are my two favorite things to kind of do.
Yeah. And is that because that's what your fish are biting on? Like
yeah, generally I catch a lot of like a lot of bass on crawl patterns, especially early spring, late fall. The reds really do well. Fire tiger really does well. But there's just a lot of more creativity you can get into doing, especially the crawl patterns, because you don't have to use the same type of stencil to do the crawl pattern every time, and you can just move stuff around a little bit, space it out a little bit, and there's just a lot more customization you can do with that.
Is fire tiger technically a crawl pattern?
Well, it's technically not. It's more of a bluegill pattern, but it's just a color combo that a lot of people like. I think it's more of a bluegill perch, if I were to put it anywhere.
Yeah.
Color.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because I feel like it was a color pattern designed for people, not fish.
Well, everything is the way I tell everyone. I was like, everything is more designed for the person than it is fish. Because if you don't catch the people, you're not going to catch the fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's just marketing. It's same with like camel. Like, I mean, Sitka claims that their pattern is better, but I think it still is at some point designed for people, aesthetics, and what looks good, what you think looks good, because the deer see it completely different.
You can throw several different paint schemes, and you're going to catch fish on them, but it just depends on what them fish are actually wanting to hit that day. So one person's fire tiger might be a little different than another person's fire tiger, because I know a lot of people like to use a really bright green as their top. I like to use more of a natural looking green as my top, not so bright, not so dark, more just of an opaque green, because that's what I'm used to.
What? Yeah, I hear you, and it's something that I've thought about, because fire tiger, and when I say fire tiger, I'm really thinking of Rapala's 18 size fire tiger, like an 18 FT. It's very bright yellow, bright green, and we do phenomenal on it every year in Canada for the last 20 years. That's always been a good producer. Yet there ain't a thing in that lake that looks like that bait. Like, those fish have never seen that color, yet they hit it. So maybe it's just like a color that agitates them, or they can see it easier.
I think it more imitates a perch than anything else, because if you look at a perch, they got that really dark green. They get really dark green top sometimes, and then they get that yellow on the side, but then they have the white in between, which you don't see that on the fire tiger. And then they got the orange accents all over the place. So that's where I see it as they're trying to imitate a perch, but not really make it look like a perch.
Yeah, it's like a neon perch. Like, they really want you to see this perch. This perch has got issues. You better
It's got to stand out in that stained water.
Oh yeah, that water is pretty bad. I mean, you can't see more.
Because I make another lure that has the fire tiger stripes on it, but it's a black, white, and chartreuse, and that one's just for straight mud water. You're not going to see anything that looks like that in the water, but you see the shadow of the bait, and that's what the fish are going to go for.
Yeah. We have a lot. We used to have. There's been 3 colors for our hard baits that have always done well. We've always done well with a traditional perch. We've always done one with a fire tiger. And then we've always done really well with whatever it's like the shiner color, but just a black and white with some reflective, like a walleye, and kind of like a black and white walleye. I guess we've done good with a clown too, but you get some of these other colors and man, do they struggle. I have a rainbow trout colored bait that I don't think I've ever caught a thing on. I've got I think they call it, I don't know what it is, but it's blue and orange. Ain't got a thing on that one. I know
a lot of the guys that fish walleye up in Lake Erie, they go for them really bright and contrasted colors. If you look up a guy named Mike Lamberg Fishing, that's what he specializes in, walleye baits, and his stuff is super bright, super colorful, and it catches fish.
Interesting. Yeah, different lakes all around. I mean, they have their different styles. So I guess it is what it is. Is Lake Erie the one that had that fiasco with the walleye fishing tournament this year?
Yep, that was the
okay.
There's weights in them fish. fiasco.
Yeah, the weights in the fish. We got weights in the fish. We got weights
Now
in the
everyone's
fish.
out there buying metal detectors that run fishing tournaments. So
Yeah, that guy picked a bad day to be that guy. I can't imagine being him anymore.
We'll put it at that.
He's probably polishing up his resume and getting a new job. I mean, I don't feel like you can make a comeback in the fishing industry.
Well, he's not
after
even
that
going to
one.
be allowed to fish anymore in Ohio and a couple other states.
Well, right, and the fishing industry is so tied to sponsor. You're either an excellent tournament fisher and you win your money. Typically, that's not enough, so they get sponsors to pay the bills when they don't win. Or you're a guide or a content creator. But man, after what he did, he'd be hard pressed to get any sponsors on board with him. He's going to be hard pressed to build a following, creating content that's going to put any bread on the table. Like I just don't see where you go from there.
You pretty much can't go anywhere in the fishing industry anymore. So, because his name's out there and it's everywhere.
You could change your business name and move to across the country and start fishing something else, and maybe people just don't realize who you are, and that's about it.
You probably got to move to California.
Yeah, move to California, change your name, start guiding. But yeah, just a bad decision.
Yep, just something that shouldn't have been done in the first place.
Oh yeah, no, they're just terrible.
Well, what's sad about
fishing tournaments
what's sad about it is
ahead.
they would have won that tournament regardless if they had weights in those fish or not.
Just because they had a good solid.
Yeah, they had 8
fish.
pounds of weight in those fish. It weighed what, 33 pounds? Minus that 8 pounds, they would have been in top place because 16 pounds was second, I think.
Yeah, you wasted your career on something that didn't even matter. That's. I'm sure he feels bad. I'm sure he feels like he made a wrong choice, and I'm sure he should. He was the one that messed it up. But man, what a dumb decision to just throw away your not only your career but also your passion. I assume if you're at that level. Oh man, that'd be like taping shed antlers onto your buck and saying you shot the world record.
Well, they're not even shed antlers.
Not throwing anyone under the bus or anything, but
they're not even shed antlers. They're made out of paper mache.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Mitch Rampala
I think
buck?
that's what it was. One of them was made out of like Bondo or something.
The Michigan buck?
I can't remember what it was.
Well, they won't. I think somebody got busted with that. Somebody got busted with switching skull plates on some of his deer, but this one I'm talking about is out of Michigan, and I don't think they don't know yet because he's not willing to subject it to any tests. And so he's just like, I have the world record, but he won't let it get x-rayed. He won't let it get DNA tested. And so people really don't know what to do about that.
Well, it's either, you put shed antlers on it or you shot it in a high fence. One of the two.
Yeah, or just take a high fence cape, a high fence skull plate, sew it under your cape and say it's a, Yeah, it's not nice to see when people are.
No, and that's like the one thing I like
that.
Try to do myself is just try to be as transparent as possible and, let people know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not going to try to lie to these people and say, oh, well, I'm bringing in these baits from overseas and I had them designed by these people. They're not my designs. They're just baits that I'm buying.
Yeah. Yeah, these are baits that I think will work well. I've used them. Here's where they're coming from. Like, it's hard these days to not do things from overseas and not. I mean, you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that, but just the time and the profit margins is not in my favor at the moment. So, even though there is no profit because everything goes right.
Would you ever consider? Would you ever consider manufacturing your own material, like your own blanks and your own?
That'd be a very
lures?
long process and probably way out in the future. I mean, I've thought about working with maybe some of these companies overseas and having them make some stuff over there and then bring it over. Then maybe see if I can have a U.S. manufacturer do it over here. But that's way in the future before I do anything like that.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. That takes a lot to do and even think about, and it still might not. Even if you were big enough to do it, it still might not make sense at that point. So, but if the website launch goes well, really, really well, maybe it'll be sooner than you think. Which, for people listening to this, this is going to air probably the first or second weekend in January. So if you're listening to this, the website may very well be up and running. Do you know what your domain name is yet?
Just be SasquatchCustomLures.com.
Okay, SasquatchCustomLures.com. How did you come up with Sasquatch? I gotta ask.
That was actually the one thing I got called in high school a lot. So I kind of took it and ran with it because they were trying to make fun of me for being this big, tall guy because I'm 6'5", and I was always taller than everyone else.
Holy
so
crap!
They're like, "Oh, you're Sasquatch." I'm like, okay. And then,
did you have a beard too in high school? I'm sure that helped.
But,
okay.
Then I kind of thought about it more, and I'm like, man, the name also kind of means, I'm trying to help these people try to catch that mythical fish. We're always looking for that mythical creature, the Sasquatch. And there's always that one fish that you always hear about in the lake. That, there's this big bass and there's that 15-pounder, some old guy's talking about it, and that's that mythical beast of the lake. And that's what I want people to be able to do. I want them to be able to catch that mythical beast in their life of a fish. So that's another thing that I thought about it.
That's really cool. I like names that have dual meanings. I like that a lot.
A little slogan I have with it is chase the beast. So you're chasing after that beast of a fish.
Yeah, no, I really like that. That's really cool. And it's unique, which is number one. You want to be unique. You want to stand out. And so you have that, but then you also have that double meaning. I really like that. The first company I built, not a ton of double meaning. It's just Bull Elk Beard Oil. I mean, you can really stretch and pull some meaning if you're like, well, a bull elk, he knows when to fight, he knows when to run away, he knows when it's like better to walk away type of stuff, but not a lot of double meaning. The $2, I tried to do better. It's about outdoor entrepreneurship. That's why our logo is trying to resemble a dollar sign. And then it's the $2 because there's $2 I care about, the kind that grow antlers and the kind that pay for them. So people, when they heard it though, thought it was just going to be like two dudes talking about deer.
No, it's more than that. You gotta really think about it.
Yeah. The brand is something you build though. It takes more than just picking a cool name. I mean, you can build a brand that really stands alone aside from the name you pick. So
and that's one thing that I'm trying to do is it's not really a company, it's more of a brand, just trying to get that out there. And it's the same thing with because I'm officiated with Rad Cat's tackle, which is the thing that Tosh runs. And basically what he does is he gets a group of people that all have a specialized thing and gets them together. So me and Fish and Frenzy Hooks are part of it. Fat Baby Sinkers. There's a couple others. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but we all just kind of come together and we produce a product for one set thing. So Fish and Frenzy Hooks has he does these custom circle hooks that are powder coated. So you can do crazy colors on them. You can do like red, white, and blue. You can do neon green. You can do glow in the dark. He gets these hooks. He makes sure they're the way they are. He bends them to where he wants them to be. Does the powder coating, and then he also puts a shrink wrap sleeve on it. So that way, when we do our snail knots and stuff, they really grip into that shrink wrap, and you don't get a knot that slips on you.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then so with that group of people in the fishing space, do you all sell like collectively anywhere? Where like, is there a site where like you could go shop everyone's products, or how does it kind of work at the consumer level? We don't have a site,
but our primary thing is selling at Jean's Marine and Tackle up at Indian Lake. All of our stuff is up there. So that's our one local shop that everything's carried at.
Oh, cool. So then I assume you drum up a lot of visibility and engagement with your fishing tournaments at Indian Lake and getting the kids involved with that, the other organization. So you kind of got yourself a little marketing platform there with those two big events.
the kid thing, I don't really use it as a marketing point because I just want to get kids out there and fish. You know.
Yeah, but their dads are there.
That is a point. Some of the dads don't fish though either, so it's just trying to get these kids out there and be able to get them on a fish and figure out what they actually want to fish for. Because we don't primarily target one thing with these kids. We let them try everything. We've had these kids try everything from a cane pole to fly fishing, bait casters, spinning rods, all the way up to big heavy deep sea fishing stuff that we've showed them, and they're just like. They're flabbergasted at how much stuff there is and how many different fish species there are to fish for. So we started them off at a pond that was stocked with largemouth bass, and every single kid caught a fish that day. And then we
that's really cool.
Gradually moved them over to Indian Lake, so that way, hey, everyone's from around this area, because that's where we're primarily starting at. We're eventually going to branch out and do all of Ohio. But we got them at Indian Lake, and we got them all on perch. We got them all on any kind of bluegill, crappie. And then the next time we took them out, it was after Saugeye. Or no, scratch that. We actually took them out and let them go out with some of the guys that were fishing our flathead tournament. And they all went out in a boat. And I think all of them caught a flathead that day. And then we took them out for some Saugeye. And everyone caught fish that day too.
Oh, that's really cool. My brother does a lot for the youth as well, and it's cool to hear people doing all these different cool ideas. He's doing it's called Youth Outdoor Activity Day, and he gets a bunch of people, like yourself would be a great example, a group of people that are good at something, like, hey, catching catfish. He's got Ducks Unlimited come out, do layout spreads. Muskie Fishing does a casting clinic. The trap range does trap shooting. There's archery, blood tracking. There's like 40 different outdoor activities. Throwing a tomahawk, cooking over an open flame. All the kids come for free. The parents come for free. Everyone gets a free lunch, free ice cream, bunch of free gear, free T-shirts, free Snoopy rods. And they're bringing in like 2,500 kids a year on a good year, like somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 kids for a day of all these different cool activities. So it's really cool to see people really doing some sweet stuff for the kids.
Yeah, with our
youth.
program, we're also showing them different things that you can do with fishing. So we had a section set up to where they could airbrush and hand paint lures with me, and then another guy had where you can hand tie jigs. We also showed them how to pour lead, which they didn't really do that part. They got to see the process of that, and that's just being able to talk to these kids about all this different kind of fishing. And we're actually looking forward to getting them on the ice this year and getting them ice fishing.
Oh yeah, that'd be really fun. Is it pretty much the same group of kids at all the events?
It's a yearly program. They pay $25 for the first year. It's $50 for the second year, and then so on and so forth, depending on how many years they do it. Because the more years you do it, the more advanced you get into things. But yeah, it's a yearly program. This year, we're going to meet up every other month with the kids and do something with them. Just try to get them somewhere different and try some different stuff. And we're it's actually an organization ran through the Ohio League of Sportsmen, which they also do. I think it's I can't remember the name of the organization they run now. Coonskins, I believe, is the name of it, and that's like their hunting side of it and their trapping side of it, and that's a really big organization here in Ohio. That's a big thing.
Oh wow, you got some reach then, that's for sure. Nice. How many people are coming out to the Indian Lake competitions, the tournaments?
Our bank tournament this year had over 100 people enter, and that was a 2-day bank tournament. So the way we run the way Tosh runs his catfish tournaments is they are a 2-day tournament, usually 48 hours. We're out there the whole time with our scale, and what they do is they bring their fish to us immediately after they catch them, if they want to weigh them, and then they get them weighed, and we release them. Because we don't want to put a lot of stress on these catfish, because even though they're hardy fish, they can still be very easy, like it's pretty much like walleye in the summer, or not walleye, muskie in the summer. You know how muskie are, they don't want to, they're hard to recuperate.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, it's really easy to
Yeah.
accidentally
So
kill a
we try to
muskie.
get these people to bring them in as quick as possible, and it's kind of a strategy thing because they got to figure out, hey, is this fish big enough for me to possibly lose my spot? Is it worth me losing my spot possibly? So it's kind of a strategy thing in that aspect because you got to think, okay, I got 25-pound flathead. Is that worth weighing in, or do I need to throw it back?
Oh, so this is like shoulder to shoulder, almost like combat fishing. Like you're fighting for a better, like not fighting, but you're trying to get the best spot you can on the river,
Yeah.
and
There,
everyone's like in a line of some
there's
sort.
a lot
Like
of with Indian Lake. There's a lot of public access fishing from the shore, so there's a lot of places you can spread out. But there are places that produce a little bit more, or at least are well known at producing a little bit more. So in that aspect, yes, with because we also do the boat / shore tournaments as well. So that is a possibility in a boat that if you leave your spot, someone else might roll up in the boat and anchor right where you just were.
Oh yeah, there needs to be a cool invention. Would be a fish scale that's wirelessly tied to like a check station, right? With some type of video proof. Like you see Major League Bass Fishing doing it, where they just put a person in each boat, which obviously they can handle that at the size they are. But like take a selfie of you weighing this fish, and then the scale will record like the timestamp and send it in, and so you can verify like it's legit and everything. I suppose you'd have the whole there's weights in the fish problem, but I feel like technology can eventually overcome that, so it's secure and fair, but also like just getting that fish back in the water as fast as possible.
And that's what we try to do. It's just there's a lot of these tournaments, they're just a one night tournament. You could catch fish right at the beginning of the tournament, and then that fish is sitting on a live well for 8 hours. So it's just.
And depending on the live well, it's either good or bad. Like it depends on how good your live well is.
And that's the one thing we try to educate people on is a proper live well system for these catfish. And you don't have to have something super fancy for these catfish. You can just buy a cooler at Walmart, and then I know Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's, they sell the live well kits where it comes with a pump and a hose where you can run it up and then have the water spraying right back in, so you're aerating that water. And just trying to get people to switch over to that system instead of, because there's a lot of people that are used to the old ways on these catfish tournaments, because there's the Indian Lake annual catfish tournament that's held every year, it's first weekend in August. And the big problem with that tournament is that they used to just let them bring the fish in on a stringer. Because it used to be just channel cats, because I think it's been running for 30 years now, and Indian Lake didn't have flatheads in it until like the last 15 years. But they used to just do channel cats, so people were bringing in these channel cats on stringers. Well, since they're killing them, well, we're trying to get these people away from that with these big flatheads, because we want to have these big flatheads be able to catch later on and make them even bigger. So just.
Do you think you could? It wouldn't probably work for a lot of tournaments, but maybe your bank fishing tournament, do like the trout fishing pond. Like you catch a cat, you get like a tag of some sort, like a wire tag, you loop it through their gill plate, something that's not going to hurt the fish, obviously. And it's got like a little float with your name on it. And you just go dump it in this trout pond that's aerated, and then you go back to fishing. And then you'd have to have someone obviously like do a catfish roundup at the end of the day.
We allow them to weigh their fish in anytime, and then if they catch a bigger one, they can bring that one in and weigh it over the other fish. But we also have some horse troughs there that are set up for keeping those fish in and trying to revive them if we do have any issues.
Oh yeah, so you got like a little backup plan going.
Yeah, one horse trough that we normally use as a staging tank, to where we put that fish in there and make sure everything's good with the fish before we weigh it. And then if there is some issues with the fish, we have the cooler that is designed to just pump as much oxygen into that fish's system as possible, which we are looking to upgrade that a little bit with an oxygen tank to be able to put as much oxygen in that system to revive them fish.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, doing lots of cool stuff. Because I think part of the tournament's probably like you want people to see the fish too. Like, oh yeah, Jeff caught this 40-pounder at 9 a.m. and you're like, oh, I didn't see that. Like,
what we
people kind of
do
want to
is
see
we
the fish.
actually have two different groups. We have the Indian Lake fishing reports, and we have the Indian Lake Flathead tournament site. And every time someone brings a fish in, we go live on that Facebook group, and we'll weigh it in live.
Oh, so people can watch. Yeah. So if you're on the bank, you're watching the live updates. Like, shoot, someone just caught a 42.
That's another aspect of it is like, oh, well, is my fish even worth bringing in? You go back and look at the live feeds. Oh, nope, it's not worth weighing in. Boop, throw it right back in.
Yeah, I suppose like I'd probably pick a line on the leaderboard where I'd want to be at. I don't know, like I want to be top 3. It's like, well, I know what the top 3 fish are. If mine doesn't cut it, I'm gonna throw it back. Keep fishing.
Normal tournaments, we only pay out top 3, 100% payout. Then with the Indian Lake, the annual tournament, the big 3-day tournament, it's 72 hours. We pay the top 20 on that one.
Oh wow. What's number 1 getting paid for one of these tournaments?
Annual tournament, I think it paid out $1,900.
That's not a bad day, not a bad weekend of fishing.
Channel cat pot, because we had a side pot that you can pay into. I think it paid like $1,300 for a 13-pound channel cat. So,
dang. I should start fishing some of these local tournaments.
Well,
you never know when you're going to get lucky and catch a fish.
Some of the local tournaments is you don't know who's running at 100% or not. Like, we're 100% payout. Some guys might not be 100% payout.
Yeah, that's true. I would probably do it for either like a fundraising cause or that. Like, there used to be a big ice fishing tournament in my hometown, and they would pay out like prizes went down a long ways. Like the first 100 would get a prize, and there'd be hundreds or maybe even thousands of people on this ice fish, and it was just a 1 day, like a 6-hour. And they would sprinkle in some prizes. Like prize number 47 might be a 4-wheeler, and then prize 80 would be like a otter tip, like flip over house, and like there were some good prizes all the way down. So it's like people were winning. Like I think one guy won a 4-wheeler from a perch one day, like because that's just like the weight. You know, that's where he landed. I think one year was such bad fishing, the guy won the pickup truck with like an 8-pound northern. So yeah, some big, like you never know. You never know when you're going to get lucky and catch a fish that could make you a couple thousand. This year was kind of our first year really taking these tournaments over, so we're kind of getting to where we're getting to know more people, get more sponsors, and because our tournaments were mainly helped out by Matt Katz Rods, and he donated a rod for every tournament this year, and then he's also donated a lot of. I think he donated us or gave us like 25 rods just to give away. Oh wow! Is he doing like custom
he's
rods?
A big production rod company, and that's all he specializes in, catfish rods. And they have so many different varieties and colors, and yeah.
I would, this is all new to me. This is really interesting to hear. I'm going to make it my goal some year to catch a big catfish, big flathead. I got to find out where they live first, but we'll figure that out. So awesome. Well, it's been great having you on. Great hearing about you building up your custom lure shop and the two different sides to Sasquatch Lures, and then hearing all the cool programs you're involved in. Give folks a chance to follow along, run down the socials where they can find you at, and where the website will be one more time.
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. YouTube, I will be doing a little bit more on this coming year. The website should be SasquatchCustomLures.com. I will have it for sure posted on my Facebook and TikTok once that is official. There should be a link tree in my TikTok to where you can find all those.
Awesome. Cool. And for you folks listening, I will link all of those socials in the show notes. And if the website's up by the time this gets posted, that'll be linked as well. And go check them out. Some of the highest quality custom baits you will find out there. I promise you that, folks. So, yeah, thanks for being here, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening, folks.